Short stack speculative hand mistakes. Stack size is an expected value filter. Your stack size decides which parts of your range print money. When you get short, speculative hands lose their main edge, implied odds. If you keep playing them like you are 100 big blinds deep, you donate to rake and variance. Pre-flop, think in 3 buckets. First, value, hands that can stack off cleanly. Second, thin value and protection, hands that win at showdown and deny equity. Third, speculative, hands that need future streets to realize equity. Short stacks punish the third bucket because equity realization, R, collapses. You cannot win big when you hit, and you still lose full bets when you miss. The core mistake, playing implied odds hands at 20 big blinds to 50 big blinds. You are paying a pre-flop price that only makes sense when you can win multiple bets later. At 30 big blinds, pots go to all-in fast. The bet tree is shallow. Your equity realization, R, on hands like 8-7. Suited and pocket fours is worse than your tracking software graph suggests at 100 big blinds. Typical leak patterns in online pools. First, calling opens with 5-4 suited through 9-8 suited versus tight positions while 25 big blinds to 40 big blinds deep. Second, flatting 2s through 6s to set mine without a realistic stack-off path. Third, cold calling. 3 bets with 7-6 suited or ace-5 suited through ace-2 suited because you block premiums. Short stacks force a shift toward linear versus polarized ranges. When effective stacks shrink, you want more linear continue ranges. Fewer pure speculate. Your 3-bet range becomes more merged. Your calling range tightens. Anti-hope poker rule. First, if your plan is, quote, hit something, quote, fold preflop. The poker place exploit framework. First, the exploit isolate short stacks with linear 3 bets. Force them to continue with dominated hands. Second, the risk, over-linearizing, makes you 4-bet jammed on and you lose fold equity. Third, the counter, if they start 4-bet jamming wider, tighten your 3-bet bluffs and call jams with stronger equity. Mental model, depth, decides your payoff profile. Speculative hands need 2 things, equity and a payoff path. At 100 big blinds, 8-7 suited can win a stack on disguised straights and flushes. At 30 big blinds, the payoff caps out. Your risk does not. Use this quick hierarchy when stacks are short. First, high card strength, ace-king, ace-queen, king-queen goes up. Second, high pair strength, pocket tens and better goes up. Third, low playability spec, 2s through 6s and 5-4 suited through 9-8 suited goes down. Why? Shallow pots reward hands that make top pair and overpairs. They also reduce reverse implied odds because stacks are not deep enough to get destroyed as often. The poker place exploit framework. First, the exploit versus players who still flat too wide, 3-bet bigger and more linear. Print with folds and dominated continues. Second, the risk if you 3-bet big with too many offsuit broadways, you create low equity realization, R, spots post-flop. Third, the counter, if they defend tighter, reduce bluff density and steal more with smaller opens. Button or cutoff versus big blind. Tighten the speculative flats, increase the pressure. In position helps your equity realization, R, but stack depth still controls expected value. At 25 big blinds to 40 big blinds, your main goal is to win the pot earlier. This shifts you toward open, 3-bet, and C-bet strategies, less call and C. Button open at 30 big blinds, simplified priorities. First, open wide, but be honest about your fold to 3-bet plan. Second, versus aggressive big blind 3-bets, continue more with suited broadways and strong offsuit broadways. Third, dump the lowest suited connectors and offsuit gappers first, 6-4 suited, 7-5 suited, 9-7 suited. Big blind defense at 30 big blinds, common mistake is calling too many suited hands. You end up in capped lines, check call, check fold, while rake drags your win rate. You need more 3-bet or fold, especially when multi-tabling and decisions get compressed. Capped versus uncapped matters here. If big blind only calls, big blind becomes capped. Button stays uncapped with overpairs and strong ace-X. Shallow stacks let button leverage that with small c-bets and turn jams. The poker place. Exploit framework. First, the exploit. Probe shallow cap blinds with frequent small c-bets, then apply turn pressure with strong top pairs and overpairs. Second, the risk autopiloting small c-bets can get check jammed and you burn expected value with weak backdoors. Third, the counter. If big blind starts check jamming more, tighten your c-bet range and trap more with overpairs and strong ace-X. Short stacks and the 3-bet pot trap. You cannot set mine. In 3-bet pots, stack-to-pot ratio is already low. Your implied odds disappear. Calling with pocket fours to flop a set is a leak unless stacks are deep or the opponent overstacks off. Online, competent regulars do not pay off enough. Rake drags you further behind. Rule of thumb for pre-flop calls with small pairs. First, if you cannot win at least 10 times the call often enough, you are gambling. Second, when effective stacks are under 50 big blinds, assume you're set mining. Expected value is negative versus solid ranges. This is where blockers and unblockers gets misused. Yes, ace-5 suited through ace-2, suited blocks pocket aces and ace-king. But at 30 big blinds, a blocker bluff that gets called is forced to realize equity in shallow, high-pressure lines. Prefer blocker 3 bets that retain playability. First, ace-5 suited through ace-4 suited as 3 bets sometimes, especially in position. Second, avoid turning king-jack offsuit into a loose flat versus 3 bets at 30 big blinds. It realizes poorly. The poker place. Exploit framework. First, the exploit. Punish set miners by 3-betting more and using smaller sizing to keep their call in, then c-bet and barrel on high cards. Second, the risk. If you barrel too hard, you overfold to jams and you torch expected value with air. Third, the counter. If they adjust by 4-bet jamming more, tighten your 3-bet bluffs and widen your value calls versus jams. Out of position advanced, small blind and big blind with short stacks, avoid capped passivity. Out of position, your equity realization, R, is worse by default. Short stacks amplify that weakness. Passive lines become auto-lose. This is where players torch expected value by completing from small blind or overcalling in big blind. Small blind versus button at 25 big blinds to 40 big blinds. First, reduce flats, increase 3-bet or fold. Second, build a linear 3-bet range. More ace-jack offsuit and better, king-queen offsuit, ace-10 suited and better, king-jack suited and better, pocket nines and better. Third, keep a small polarized component only when you have clean blockers, ace-5 suited, king-5 suited, with plan to continue versus jams. Big blind multi-way at short stacks is a rake trap. Calling with 8-7 suited into an open plus call at 30 big blinds feels playable. It is not. Your pot odds look good, but your equity realization, R, collapses and you face tight value ranges. Minimum defense frequency is not permission to defend junk. Minimum defense frequency assumes a clean betting model. Real games include rake, sizing tells, and non-optimal frequencies. Exploitatively, you overfold low equity trash and 3. Bet the hands that realize. The poker place. Exploit framework. First, the exploit versus wide stealers, 3-bet, linear, and deny their realized equity, versus NIEs, just fold and move on. Second, the risk over 3-betting out of position creates tough post-flop nodes and you overcommit with marginal top pairs. Third, the counter. If the opener starts calling more 3-bets in position, tighten your bluff. 3 bets and shift to value-heavy lines. Scenario box, 30. Big blinds deep, button versus big blind. Hero hand, 8 of spades. 7 of spades. Flop, king of hearts. 9 of clubs, 3 of hearts. Action, button opens. Big blind calls, big blind checks. Button C bets small. Your mistake is floating because you have backdoors. With 30 big blind stacks, one call forces you into turn decisions where ranges polarize quickly. Your hand has low immediate equity and poor equity realization. R versus a value-dense line. Optimal mindset. First, fold flop more versus small C bets when your backdoors are weak and you have no overcard outs. Second, if you continue with hands that can credibly apply pressure later. Strong backdoors, good blockers. Scenario box, 35 big blinds deep, small blind versus button, 3-bet pot. Hero hand, 4 of clubs, 4 of hearts. Flop, ace of hearts. Jack of spades, 6 of clubs. Action, button opens, small blind, 3 bets. Button calls, small blind, C bets. If you 3-bet and then C-bet this flop with pocket fours, you are usually bluffing into a range that is not folding enough. Button is more uncapped here than you think. They can have ace-jack, ace-queen, ace-king, and slow-played pocket queens and better. At this stack-to-pot ratio, you will face raises or turn pressure and you have no clean runouts. Line construction. First, pick 3-bet bluffs with better equity and better turn barrels. Second, if you choose pocket fours as a 3-bet, do it with a plan to check more flops, then realize what equity you have. Key takeaway. Short stack poker is not deep stack poker. Your biggest stack size mistake is treating speculative hands like they have implied odds when the stack cannot support it. At 20 big blinds to 50 big blinds, shift toward linear continues, higher card strength, and earlier pressure. Use equity realization. R to cut the bottom of your suited connectors and small pairs. Use minimum defense frequency as a reference, not a religion. Now, let's test your edge. Question 1. What is the article's main reason speculative hands lose expected value when you become short-stacked? Answer. Their implied odds and equity realization, R, collapse in shallow stacks. Explanation. With 20 to 50 big blinds, pots go all in quickly. You can't win multiple future bets when you hit, but you still pay full prices when you miss. Question 2. Pre-flop. What are the 3 hand buckets the article recommends thinking in? Answer. Value, thin value and protection, speculative. Explanation. Short stacks punish the speculative bucket the most, so categorizing hands helps you adjust your continues as depth shrinks. Question 3. What range shape shift does the article recommend as effective stacks shrink? Answer. Move toward more linear continue ranges, more merged 3 bets, and tighter calls, with fewer pure speculative hands. Explanation. Shallow stacks reduce payoff paths, so you want hands that perform well immediately and can stack off more cleanly. Question 4. In short-stacked 3-bet pots, what rule of thumb does the article give for calling with small pairs to set mine? Answer. If you can't win at least 10 times the call often enough, it's gambling. Under 50 big blinds, assume set mining. Expected value is negative versus solid ranges. Explanation. Low stack-to-pot ratio, removes implied odds, competent opponents don't pay off enough, and rake pushes the spot further negative. Question 5. In the 30 big blinds button versus big blind scenario, with 8-7 suited on, King 9 to 3 and a small C bet, what mindset does the article recommend versus floating with weak backdoors? Answer. Fold the flop more when backdoors are weak and you have no overcard outs. Only continue with hands that can credibly apply pressure later. Explanation. One call at 30 big blinds forces high-pressure turn nodes and low-equity hands realize poorly versus value-dense lines. Study hard, play smart. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next lesson.